Hi, English 244 hits the technological frustration edition of your lecture. So the problem has been that I recorded a Panopto video which allows you to see me and look at a PowerPoint, but it's not able to be uploaded. There's some sort of issue happening. I'm not sure what it is. Tech people are now working on it, still working on it, but I wanted to get this information out to you. So I know you're just looking at a screen, so I'll try to be quick. Thanks a lot for your good exams. I checked all those out. Everything looks pretty good. Make sure that you answer all the questions completely when you're doing the exams. And also make sure you try to use as best as you can clear punctuation, spelling, and stuff so that I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out what you're writing. I thought that though in general I had great new ideas from many of your responses. Whenever I read with you guys, I understand so much more. So this is about Mouse, and I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying reading this. We're going to be reading Mouse 2 next, which you probably already figured out. Let me get on here to what I'm calling fun facts. In 1992, it won the Pulitzer Prize. And it was really confusing and surprising for everybody because nobody knew what to categorize it as. The Pulitzer Prize has like, this is for memoir, this is for biography, and they weren't even sure how to do it. However, the strength of the narrative, that was the first graphic novel to ever win a Pulitzer Prize. And the graphic novel was considered sort of like a low form, like, oh, that's just for funny things, or that couldn't be something serious or meaningful. And what we have in this story is a really deep portrait of the Jewish American experience, and how they felt and how they lived, and also the experience of the children of immigrants. Many of the people that we've read so far are the children of immigrants, or they are the immigrants themselves. What is the experience of having your parents come from a different country? And clearly with Art Spiegelman, a really different experience. This book was also published in a serialized form, meaning chapter by chapter, in a magazine called Raw. And it took a long time for him to publish it because he worked really hard on each of the pages. You can see that in the writing of it, because he shows a chapter that he finished and he shows it to his dad in later chapters. So you can see how he was slowly working on this stuff. Many important novels long ago, like the Charles Dickens novels and other novels at the end of the 19th century, that's how they came out, is in chapter form. Everyone was excited for the next version. We see that happening now with like The Walking Dead. That's a popular comic series. It's being mirrored in television, but the idea that you're always waiting for the next part to come out. I want to talk a little bit about anti-Semitism, which is, as you see here, the hate of Jewish people. Over on the right is like a caricature, a Jewish caricature. And the view was that there were these sort of creepy people, and you can see there's this sort of like webbed fingers and creepiness who's taking over basically all of the world. I think what I see here is France especially. It must have been the French were especially concerned with the Jewish presence there. And the Jewish people have been persecuted for so long, since they were basically the Jewish people. They're essentially, the religion talks about them being the special people of God. And so that already created a sense of separateness. Additionally, when Christianity branched off from Judaism, we had a conflict there over whether you believed in Jesus or not, right? So throughout the Middle Ages in Europe, the Jewish people were put into special communities. Some of them were killed in I can't remember the name of it at this moment, in Spain, the Inquisition. During the Inquisition, many Jewish people were murdered. So it's been going on for a long time, but never the scale as the Holocaust. They were feared for their ability to, they were feared for their business acumen, they were feared for their beliefs, their behaviors, the things they ate. It was just a sort of sidelining of these people. We see that still in the U.S. We see anti-Semitism in the U.S. Some early American figures like Henry Ford was really, really anti-Jewish, and was really spent a lot of time trying to create rules that would prevent Jewish people from getting ahead. So long history of anti-Semitism, and Art Spiegelman is right in the middle of it. So here are some of the key themes that are going on that I want you to watch out for in Maus. We have the father and son relationship, which is really complicated. You can see how Vladek is kind of a jerk. You can see how Art is kind of like a partier and a little nutty, and he's smoking his cigarettes and getting the ashes on the floor. So there's this like really, there's a tense relationship and yet a connection. We see survivor's guilt, and that is the guilt of the people who made it through. For Vladek, it's a few things. He has, not only did he make it through the Holocaust when so many of his family members did not, but we also have his guilt of survival after his wife committed suicide. He's hanging on and trying to validate what's happening, his hanging on. We also see him dealing with Jewish stereotypes. Art Spiegelman's talking about the Jewish stereotypes. He's frustrated when his father displays the stereotypes like being worried about money and saving things and being kind of conservative and thrifty. And so he's like, wow, what is this? My dad is fulfilling all these things, and yet through his story, we recognize that Vladek was so much more. We could see him in the present and think, oh, this strange old Jewish man. And yet we see from the story of his past that he was talented and devoted to his family. He was also, he wanted to get ahead. He wanted to succeed. He worked hard. He had a lot of like really neat skills. He was also apparently like a super dreamy looking guy back in the day. So that's fun to see. They're exploring the ties that bind people together. And this isn't just the tense relationship between Vladek and Art, but it is also the ties that bound people back during the Holocaust. We see many times where Vladek runs into somebody who helps him out, and he makes a lucky situation. He finds people who don't. He lets them go, and then they tell where he is. That sometimes in surprising ways someone will help, and then other times people who should be helping won't, or they'll do something strange, like or surprising or unhelpful, like when the aunt kills Richu and the other children because she's afraid they're going to be taken to the camps. So what is it that holds us together? And we see that Art Spiegelman's thinking about this because at the very beginning, the sort of prologue, is his friends running away when he falls on his roller skates, and his dad's like, huh, want to know what friends are? Try locking everybody up, then you'll see who your friends are. Right. What is strong enough to make it through something like the Holocaust? We also see the relationship between memory and the past. Do we remember it correctly? Do we not remember it? Are there some things we want to say and some things that we don't want to say? How is Vladek's memory accurate? How isn't it accurate? How is it filtered through Art Spiegelman? Is it most effective when juxtaposed with the present day stories of him seeing his father and then going back in time? We also think about morality and ethics. There are many times where Vladek does something that isn't exactly ethical, but it helps people survive. We see others who do things that aren't ethical and then they die. For instance, the man who gave them away when they were hiding above the chandelier, later on Vladek buries him. And so there's this sort of sense of like, do things come around and go around, or does it mean nothing? What is it to make good decisions? Did Vladek make it through because he was kind of a cutthroat guy as well? Is that what helped them survive? It's an interesting place to examine, and that's going to continue. These key themes are going to continue in the next book as well. I want you to look at the picture that you have there, which is down below. Anya and I didn't have where to go. We walked in the direction of, and I don't know how to say that, so Snowick, but nowhere to go. You can see how there was no place for them to go. And this isn't what Vladek is saying. Vladek says, you know, we didn't know where to go. The road looked different. But Art Spiegelman is saying the reason you had nowhere to go is because the Nazis were there. And the Nazis, you could see the swastika in the road. The Nazis had them trapped, right? Basically, every place that they could go was a trap that was going to make them either maligned and acting as slaves, or living or dead, or you know, living in a cramped compartment, barely able to feed themselves. So there really wasn't a place to go. They were on a tangled path and they couldn't see it. And so that picture really shows us this moment, kind of the dynamic that's happening in this book, which is that we're hearing the story of Vladek and Anya, and then we're getting it through the lens of Art Spiegelman, who looking back can see what was happening and how this was going. So he is also, it's a reminder that he is framing this story as well. That's my lecture for today. It was a little longer before, but I think this is going to work out great. Thanks for your patience this week as I was trying to figure out all of this stuff.